Welcome, everybody, back to the Midnight Matinee. We got another movie review for you. This one is our number 9, was it?
It's number 9 of our 31 Days of Demonic Possession movies.
Right. So this one is one of the big ones, the Amityville Horror.
The original.
Yeah, the
not
original,
the remake.
not one of the hundreds of remakes that they've made. in my world, there's only one remake of the Amityville Horror, and that's the Ryan Reynolds one. The rest of them are all garbage. Don't even waste your time with any of them. They're all varying degrees of awful.
Very much so.
Only Ryan Reynolds gets a pass in our world.
Deadpool.
Right. So, let's see. What were we going to talk about first? We covered up our notes.
Oh, we covered up our notes. These are like little-known tidbits or facts about the movie, The Amityville Horror. So
it was based on a book by Jay Anson, and it was the same name. It was called The Amityville Horror, and the story was that the DeFeo lawyers and the Lutzes sat around over a bottle of wine and dreamed up this exaggerated story of what happened. And although the lawyer claims that that's fake, that none of that really happened, but that's how the story goes. The book itself was a bestseller.
Yes.
So they made a bunch of money off of the book, and then, movies always follow the books a couple months to years later, and that's what happened in this case. So,
well, it kind of intertwined two different stories. There was the actual DeFeo murders,
right,
and then they kind of intertwined the paranormal experiences of the Lutz family into the same book.
Exactly.
And that's what obviously became the movie.
So this movie had a budget of $4.7 million, which is what your average Hollywood celebrity carries around in their wallet nowadays. That's nothing at all.
Yep.
Like whenever you see like a modern movie like The Avengers or a top tier like movie like that, not like top tier, but I mean the production is top tier. Their camera costs about $4 million. So you can imagine what the budget of this movie was. It was very, very low budget. And it grossed, $86 million?
$86 million.
Making it the highest grossing independent film of the time. And it was an independent film because nobody wanted to pick it up. None of the studios were like,
Nope.
If you ever watched it on videotape back in the 80s, you'll notice that there's a weird thing in the beginning of it where it just, they show the whatever production company who made the tape, and then it goes right into the movie.
Also,
so there's no TriStar or 20th Century Fox or none of those things. It just goes.
Nobody wanted to touch it with a
boom,
with a
right
10-foot pole.
Yeah, right into the movie. It's kind of jarring for a tape person because you're used to having, at least 3 little things in. The director has their own card, the studio has their own card, the production company has their own card.
Multiple production companies nowadays.
So there's a whole thing in the beginning, not in the VHS tape or the Amityville Horror. It just goes boop right into the movie. So the real house, the exteriors were shot of the actual house in was it Long Island?
Yeah, it's 112 Ocean Avenue is where the actual house is.
So we were talking about before we started recording this that you could tell that it's a sound stage that they filmed the interior shots on because the doors and the windows don't line up with the actual house. So the house, as you look at from the street at the real Amityville Horror house, you're looking at the side of the house. And there's like an atrium, and then it goes up to the iconic, eyeball windows. And the entrance is actually on the side of the driveway. But in the movie, when they run out the front door, they run into the front yard, and the driveway is off to the side to the right of exiting the house. And then the street is immediately beyond it with a big tree right there in the front yard.
Well, they used a different house. They didn't actually use the Amityville house.
Right.
Because the people, the current owners, did not want to have that kind of publicity.
Yeah, who would?
I mean, they probably still to this day have people go and buy their house.
Well, yeah,
they changed the windows so that
after the production, at some point they actually cut the windows out and then put regular square windows in it, so that way people would leave them alone with
Wouldn't
it.
know which door it is.
But it has a bunch of signs. Actually, they got rid of the sidewalk, I believe,
so
on that side
can't...
of the street, and then it has signs everywhere saying "Don't stop traffic," keep moving. Basically, you're not allowed to stop in front of the house and like take Instagram selfies or whatever.
Well, we all know we've done it.
I totally would too. I'd just stop the car and get out. But my tire's flat. I get back in the car.
I thought it was interesting that Margot Kidder, who we had watched, we also watched in
Black Christmas, right?
Had hesitancy. Can't speak.
Hesitancy.
Thank you.
She was hesitant to play this role because she didn't believe in the supernatural aspects of it, which is shocking because her performance is on the money. Like, she is really good in this movie.
Yeah.
Especially the jump scare scene where she's wearing like the old makeup. I would say, spoiler alert, but the movie is
been out long
almost
enough.
as old
as
I am.
If you haven't seen it,
so,
you're not a true horror fan.
The movie's 50 years old. There's no such thing as spoilers, right? It's been.
I don't think it's quite 50 yet.
Is it 77? So it's just under
70. Or no, the book was from 77.
Yeah.
The movie came out in 79.
Right.
But.
So anyway, it's almost 50 years old. So if you haven't seen it at this point, it's on you, not me. So no spoilers.
I got a good question. This raised my thing. Okay, so obviously we're doing our 31 days of demonic possession movies, and this is obviously James Brolin, who plays George Lutz, was definitely possessed.
Right.
But is it a possession movie or is it a haunted house movie? Because a lot of the stuff happens in the house. I mean, you figure like George Lutz wasn't in the house when the flies were coming, and they slammed the hand. Everybody was the priests are getting sick.
According to canon, the Amityville Horror is a haunted house movie.
Okay.
But in my opinion, it's a possession movie because.
What was it, demonic though?
Yeah, without a doubt.
You think so?
Because whatever it was that possessed the DeFeo guy, what was his name?
Was it Ronnie?
No, I don't know. Anyway, whatever it was that possessed, that was oppressing him, also oppressed George Lutz, right? So it's the same whatever entity or demon or whatever it was that lived underneath the house in the red room, that the pig demon was what also possessed him. So there was, that was the whatever that thing is, the Jody red-eyed pig demon was the demon, and it possessed, or was oppressing the both of them. So,
you know what my scariest moment in the movie was when I was watching this as a kid? That babysitter being locked in that closet.
Oh yeah, and I
am claustrophobic, and I actually got locked into one of my childhood closets once. It had those doors that had the two glass ends, and then it came out, and I couldn't get out, and my sister wouldn't let me out. I'm like, you're just mean.
Well, the part about that got me was that when he opens the door, you can see one of her fingernails stuck into the wood of the door, and she's all bloody from trying to claw her way through the door because she was so scared being in there.
Yeah, she had to unpack that baggage for a long time.
Right. She was in therapy for a long time at it. And then the worst part of it was that the little girl was in the room, like coloring on her books and reading.
Amy!
Right there, right on.
Why didn't you open the door?
Yeah. Crazy.
That high-pitched mouth.
Yeah, little girl with the headgear, like they used to do that back in the day.
You don't see that much anymore.
No, they don't. They do it all internally.
Tuning
now.
in Tokyo.
Right. They do it internally now with rubber bands, so you don't have to have the headgear anymore. But
well, they were talking about in the production that there was also some weird happenings on set, but I got to take that as I was saying, it wasn't filmed at the house.
Right. Right.
It was on a soundstage. It was in a completely different house. So how do they have the weird happenings on set?
Yeah. Well, that's what one of the things that we were going to talk about is that all of the effects are practical effects in this movie because they didn't have a big budget for doing like elaborate, effects for it. So it's basically, a piece of plywood with razor blade slits in it, and then they push
the blood
corn syrup through the piece of, and all that is done on a soundstage. And then the interiors of this were either shot at the other house, which, where was that?
It was in New Jersey, yeah.
So the other house in New Jersey, which is the same floor plan, or it was on the soundstage where they could control. So like the interior of the front, the rooms that you see, like the kitchen and the entry room, those are the house in New Jersey. And then the backyard and those scenes were all, you know, from that set. But the actual exterior shots, establishing shots in the beginning, where they're moving the cots in and out, and they got the ambulance and all that. That was in New York.
Yeah.
So it kind of it's a tricky thing that they did because in the establishing shots, when they first show the DeFeo murders and they show the exterior of the house, it is the real house. So in your mind, you're locked into that layout, and then later on in the movie, when you see the front of the house is actually in New Jersey, and the house doesn't face the same way.
Does that leave you like unsettling?
It does, yeah.
Kind of like, you know, like The Shining.
Like The Shining, how they did that, where
it doesn't match
right.
up. Like you think, okay, he made 4 turns on that little bike,
right?
And he should have come back to where he was, but he didn't.
Yeah. And there's another scene.
Well, that was also done on a soundstage.
Not to get too far in the weeds, but there's a scene where Jack Nicholson gets out of the elevator, and then he makes a right, and then makes another right, and then goes into the owner or the manager's office before he's left there as the caretaker. And in your mind, you know that the elevator is behind this wall, but in the office, that wall looks outside. Right behind his desk is a window that looks outside into the wilderness.
It's an intentional effect to make you feel unsettled.
Right.
Like, so, like something's not right.
The way Stanley Kubrick did that, though, was with hiding clever cuts in it. So, like, they walk out of the elevator and they make a right, and then they walk off camera, so there's a cut, and then he reframes that in a different section, and then opens it with the two of them still talking, and then the camera follows them around another right corner, and then there's a hidden cut there where it pans into the wall, and then it backs up and then follows them into the office, where then she introduces him to the manager, and you can see the window there, and then when you're watching it, it just blows right past you. But inside your mind knows that they walked right and then down a hallway and then made another right and then now into the office. And then now you're looking out a window that would be where the elevator they just got out of is. So it causes unsettling things in your mind, because you're thinking you can't really get a spatial awareness of what it actually is. In your mind, it's like it's overlapping, basically, and that's kind of what they were talking. The big wheel scene is the same thing, because the second floor that goes around the raised opening where the dining room is, it's all left turns, but he makes a right turn and goes down the hallway where the room he's not supposed to go is, right? And that's impossible, because he can't. The walkway doesn't go that way. You know what I mean? So that way, in your mind, you catch it in your mind, but you don't. Your awareness isn't of it. So then you feel unsettled, because you're like, well, how did he just make a right turn down that hallway? The hallway doesn't exist. And then he has the encounter with the lady, and then, anyways,
dial it back.
That's the movie. That's the cinematography and the director for photography having, like, just, you know, obscene detail, and then that's what we're talking about in this, because it's not that they were lazy, it's just that they knew that they couldn't afford to rent this house for months and months in New York and get all the licenses through the state of New York and do all of that filming there. They found a house that was identical to it, just facing the other way, so then they basically filmed it all there in New Jersey, where it was cheaper.
And you know that movie was hardcore. I remember I've never seen priests smoking them before in movies.
Right.
I remember we were watching
or
it one
changing
night.
Their oil.
Well, we were watching it one night with a bunch of my friends, and I just remember my friend going, "Is that priest smoking?"
Right. Everybody used to smoke back in the day.
Yeah, everybody. Not me.
But, well, you were infant back then. So then, that's what we're talking about, is that the soundstage is one thing, and then there's also the New Jersey house, and then there's also the New York house. So that's why there's inconsistencies all over, and it wasn't 100% intentional. It was just, that's the way it was made. You know, it was the way to...
Now, when did the Warrens...
More bang for your buck.
When did Ed and Lorraine Warren go into this house? Was it after the...
It was when they were writing the screenplay.
Okay.
And that's when the photo of the child peeking out of the doorway, that's where that comes from.
Gotcha. Yeah, for those who don't know, Ed and Lorraine Warren are like the mother and father of the paranormal investigation investigators. They are like, you know...
As a person who's been in this field for a long time... I kind of, I don't know how to say it. Like, I have a lot of respect for the Warrens. Like, I really, really do. I have a lot of respect for them. But at the same time, I do concede that they were a little bit of fabrication, is the easy way to say it. Like, I do like the Warrens. I like their stories. I like the books that they've written. I like the movies that they made about them. But at some point, you're kind of like, yeah, it was, a lot of that was fake, you know. And if you know us on the other channel, or it's the same channel, just the different subsect of this channel, we tend to stay on what you can verify and what is fact, not extravagant claims, right?
We're the ones that come in on the scientific end during paranormal investigations, and we debunk hauntings. We look for rational, natural, normal
Occam's razor
before we go to the paranormal.
It has the most simple explanation is probably the truth. You know what I mean? Is it a Mesopotamian demon, 6,000-year-old demon, or is it a leak in the boiler?
Gas
right.
leak.
What
high tension power wires right next to your bedroom.
That is another thing that we've experienced
poorly wired
a couple of times, is bad wiring and enormous large carrier wires of the high tension power lines.
Not just normal, but like industrial strength. Right next to your bed.
The big transfer cable is going right next to these people's house.
Yeah. Anyway, back to...
Get back on the track again.
We have a tendency to go into those rabbit holes.
Yeah. But this movie is fantastic, and I've always loved the Amityville Horror. Even the new one with Ryan Reynolds, or this one. I
think there's another one too on top of it.
Oh, I know there's a bunch of them.
I know they did like 1, 2, and 3, which were bad.
Yeah, they were all.
They were
especially the third one,
yeah,
the 3D.
Yeah,
that was terrible. Yeah, but we're in our series, we don't usually go into the subgenre of them, unless they're all really good, so that's why we did like the Insidious franchise, because every one of those is gold. And we've
got the Conjuring
ones
be coming up.
Yeah. So there's a lot of that, we'll cover the entire series if it merits it. But this movie does not. I feel like the 2 and the 3 are just the throwaway movies. The 2 wasn't awful. The Amityville Horror Part 2 wasn't. The third one was just no.
Throw it in the
3D.
Trash.
Yeah, it was.
You know where the third movie belongs?
In the garbage.
In the trash.
Yeah, it was bad.
Trash.
Yeah.
Trash Panda. No.
So,
Yep.
It is what it is.
Well, do we want to go ahead and put our rating on it?
Yeah, we'll put our rating on it.
Want to see what our rating stuff is?
Yeah, this is what our rating is.
And I think we pretty much agreed, because it's a classic. We've seen it. I've seen it countless times.
Hundreds of times.
So we're going to go with the Hell's Bells. They're going to start thinking we're easy on horror movies.
Well, we
either go really high or really low.
With this series, though, this is like, we picked all of the best of movies in this genre. So that's why a lot of these have been Hell's Bells, because they are like the apex of horror movies.
Well, there's a lot more to choose from, too. Like when we did the 24 Days, it's a lot smaller set of horror movies that are made around Christmas.
Yeah, Christmas horror movies. There's a tiny little
genre.
Yeah. So like we said last time, if any movie production people or movie script writers, you want to make a breakout movie, Christmas movies is,
because there's those of us out there who would love a little horror with
definitely
a little horror with our Santa.
Yeah. And a lot of people will say, well, it's oversaturated. Like, no, it's oversaturated with garbage.
Yes.
Absolute garbage movies.
Oh, and I got to bring up, I was able to curate another 24 Christmas movies for next year.
Nice.
I am already thinking ahead.
Yeah, these movies that we watch for the 24 nights of Christmas movies, I'd be willing to bet maybe 5 were good.
I would say that the top of it is probably Gremlins.
Yeah. 5 of them were good. Not exceptional. Not Hell's Bells, but they were movies that you could sit down and watch and go, All of the rest were absolute trash. Garbage. That one. Oh man, Christmas Sleighs, or what was that?
Oh, the Sleigh Bells.
Christmas Sleigh.
Oh, the one with the wrestler.
No. The one with the dollar store Harley Quinn.
Here we go. Oh yeah, it was I've got it all on here. I got my book.
The Nights Before Christmas. That's what it was. And it's funny because our short of The Nights Before Christmas is blowing up, and that movie is awful.
They made a second one, and it's on the list for next year.
They made a sequel.
I know I'm going to make him suffer through it.
One of the worst movies I've ever seen. If it weren't for the fact that I watched all 3 of Horror House LLC back to back, I would say The Nights Before Christmas is probably the worst movie I've ever seen.
And what did I do watching the 3?
She dozed off in the middle of the first one and slept all the way through the other 2.
That's a long nap, but it was bad.
They were awful.
Yeah.
Absolutely just negligent.
I think and we saw that there's another one on Shudder. A fourth one.
They made a prequel on Shudder for the Horror House LLC movies. Like, who greenlit that? Like, bro, no. Stop it. The first one was kind of meh. Like, it was supposed to be like a found footage movie. And if you guys know, a found footage movie, it's a one and done. It has to be a one and done.
Because you can't find more footage.
Because, they found what? Stop.
What, so they come like spewing out of the...
So they made a second one, which is kind of like the news media investigates what happened in the first one. And it's bad. And then their third one was just... I mean, there's a point in the third one where the 2 main characters are just sitting in a grassy field just talking for 20 minutes. You're like, what?
They were trying to go for edgy.
Did you even just give up? What is going on in this movie?
He's talking about it.
Oh, I know. It was terrible. Terrible.
Yeah, you know a movie's bad when I start falling asleep. And I got to bring up something about falling asleep. So we didn't mention this in our review of Nosferatu, but it was so dark in the movie theater and everything was so low lit on the movie that I literally started to fall asleep at one point. And I was and something big happened and I jerked awake and I'm doing this. And so I said it to him. I said, I feel bad because I started falling asleep.
Yeah.
And he goes, I was fighting it too. Yeah, and he goes, the guy next to me
was out cold. He reclined his seat completely flat and rolled over on his side and went to sleep during Nosferatu. He was out cold. And when the movie ended and he was still out, and when I put my seat down, it clamped, when the last, as it put the little feet away or whatever, and then he got up. It's like, that's a good movie, and got up. Wow, bro, you saw 20 minutes.
Could have taken a nap at home.
Yeah, you could have took a nap for free.
But yeah. So, the Hell's Bells
of the Amityville Horror.
Is there anything coming up that we should... we want to go see... What's the movie? Is it the... Oh, it's something with the...
Oh, what?
The Damned.
The Damned.
I think we're going to go...
we're going to go
see
Damned.
Maybe we can go do that this weekend. We still
Is
have...
it out?
Yeah, it's at Ronnie's, but we also still have AMC balance on it.
Nice.
So we could maybe go see that and give it a
Go see
review
a
of
scary
it.
movie. Come back with another review.
Yeah. And I think Todd was supposed to be doing our intro and exit.
Yeah, but he did not.
He did not. So let's see. What was it? So grab your tickets and get yourself a big bucket of popcorn and join us again for the Midnight Matinee.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
We'll catch you next time, everybody.
See ya.